Right around 2002, a man trying to send a rocket to Mars ran into a problem that should have ended the idea before it started. Every aerospace manufacturer he visited quoted him the same number, $65 million just to buy one rocket. At that price, Mars wasn't a mission. It was a fantasy. Most people would have quietly shelved the idea right there. He didn't. Instead, he asked a completely different question. Here's the question. Not what do rockets cost, but what are rockets actually made of, and what do those materials actually cost? That single shift from copying the industry's number to questioning it entirely is called first principles thinking, and it's arguably the single most powerful way to think that most people have never been formally taught. Most of the time, you're not actually reasoning. You're copying. Reasoning by analogy means basing a decision on what's worked in similar situations before, and honestly, most of the time, that's completely fine. You don't need to reinvent how to make coffee every morning. But analogy has a hidden cost. Copy something enough times, across enough people for enough years, and the copy starts to feel like a law of nature, even when nobody actually checked if it was true anymore. First principles thinking is the deliberate override. Instead of asking how something has always been done, you ask what you actually know to be true, independent of precedent, and then you rebuild your understanding upward from there. This isn't a modern productivity hack. It's over 2,000 years old. Aristotle, writing in his Posterior Analytics, described a first principle as the first basis from which a thing is known, an irreducible truth that can't be broken down any further. You don't prove a first principle. You identify it the same way you'd identify bedrock by digging until the shovel simply won't go any deeper, and then everything else gets built on top of it. Centuries later, a French philosopher took that idea and turned it into an actual method. René Descartes wanted certainty so badly that he decided to doubt literally everything he possibly could. His senses, his memories, even basic assumptions about reality itself, until only the truths that survived every possible doubt remained standing. Whatever was left after that process became his new foundation, rebuilt from the ground up instead of inherited from tradition. Aristotle told us what a first principle actually is. Descartes handed us an actual method for finding one. Doubt everything you can and see what refuses to fall. Which brings us back to the rocket. Instead of accepting the industry's $65 million price tag as a fact of nature, the questioning began at the material level. What is a rocket actually made of? Aerospace-grade aluminum alloys, titanium, copper, carbon fiber? Then came the real question. What do those raw materials actually cost? Bought directly? Without decades of industry markup layered on top? The answer was staggering. Roughly 2% of what the finished rocket was being sold for. That gap between the raw material cost and the market price wasn't a law of physics. It was decades of manufacturers copying each other's pricing, analogy repeating itself until nobody questioned it anymore. That insight became the foundation of an entire aerospace company, built specifically to close that gap. Here's the part worth sitting with. Almost everything you currently believe about how something has to work isn't actually a law of physics. Most of it is just the last person's analogy, copied so many times that it eventually started to feel like a fact. So the next time you catch yourself thinking something simply has to be a certain way, ask one question first. Is that actually true, or is it just what everyone agreed to copy? Strip a problem down to what's actually irreducibly true and build back up from there. And you're not just solving that one problem anymore. You're doing exactly what this channel is named after. Understanding something truly from the ground up. Next time, we'll look at the tool your own mind uses to test ideas it can never actually run in the real world. Every thought experiment explained.